Joan Quinn is the former West Coast editor of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and society editor of the Herald Examiner. Her cover stories are seen in Venice and Detour magazines, and she is a contributing editor to Angelus magazine. For the next half hour, Joan will bring you inside news and views on society, art, film, and the exhilarating worlds of these multifaceted people. Here is Joan Quinn.
Welcome to Joan Quinn, etc. Our guest today is designer Paloma Picasso. But before we talk to her, let's go by way of my snapshots to the fundraiser for the public television station in Los Angeles. Here is KCET's event and Joan Quinn Clicks. Paloma Picasso is the quintessential designer. She's designed costumes, jewelry, china and crystal, cosmetics, perfume, eyewear, and accessories, which in a nutshell seems to cover everything. She's at Neiman Marcus in Beverly Hills to talk about her accessory line. Paloma was born in Paris on April 19th and spent her childhood in the south of France. Her father was the great artist Pablo Picasso, and her mother is painter François Gillot. Coming from such an artistic family, Paloma, did you ever want to be a painter?
Since I was always asked the question, I figured I didn't want it. You know? It just came up too often.
Did you ever paint on your own in the quiet of your room?
Not really. Of course, I did a lot of drawing and watercolors. You know, it seemed to be the thing to do around the house. You know, you slept and you ate, and then you did a little painting on the side. But I never thought that I would, you know, develop into a painter, because actually, first of all, I don't think I had the urge, and I think that, you know, anything like that you do, you have to feel the urge to do it.
That it comes from
and
within.
Thank God I didn't have it.
You started designing jewelry as a teenager.
Right.
I remember hearing about your jewelry, and you used the sun symbol a lot.
Yes. That's true.
Why and how did that happen?
I guess, you know, being raised on the Mediterranean and in Paris, of course, where you get a lot less sun and then you linger for it. I guess the sun is a happy, you know, well, that's why I like the city. You know, the city has a lot of sun, so you get warmth, and even now I stay away from the sun. You know, I want to keep
Yes.
all as white as I can. I always walk on the shady side of the street. Still, I love the sun.
Did you sell any of your first pieces of jewelry as a teenager?
Actually, I did. I guess I sold them. I mean, my real first customer was Yves Saint Laurent. By then, I must have been 20 or 21, something like that. 21, I guess.
Ah. Where did you go to college?
In Paris. The first year I went to school, but I was really a tiny baby. I went to school in south of France. But then I moved to Paris and went to school in Paris. One school being called École Alsacienne, which was kind of advanced.
How did you find the proper school for you? What was your idea of
Oh, you know,
school?
usually at that time it's not your idea, it's your parents' idea. You don't know, you don't want to go to begin with. But somehow it was quite a nice school. And the fact that they were trying to be, you know, rather advanced made it actually easier being the daughter of Pablo Picasso, which I found when I, you know, moved to another school where people would, you know, teachers would kind of bother me with the fact that I was Paloma Picasso.
The other school was not as conservative. Is that the idea? It was more avant-garde?
Yes,
and
very much so.
You did some costume designing for the stage. Did it start at that period?
No, much later. Actually, in the way, if we're going to go through the order of
We're
things.
We're going to go through the order. This will be great. Shall we do it?
So I started with jewelry for the theater, but not costume. I was working as the assistant to a stage designer, and I was, you know, finding little objects and actually getting some cushions made, you know, little props for the show. And then suddenly somebody realized that the actress should have a really big piece of jewelry. So I went to the flea market and looked for things. And since I couldn't find anything, I finally bought a pair of bikinis from the Folies Bergère. And I took the rhinestones out and I sewed them onto a black band, and that became my first piece of jewelry.
Oh, that was the start. I wondered what the Folies Bergère story was. I thought maybe you were in the Folies.
Not quite, no.
What was your next move then into design?
So once that came out, I heard of a school where you really learn how to make jewelry. I thought, well, you know, I'm getting known to do jewelry. I might as well really learn how to do it. So for 1 year, I studied how to make jewelry, and this way I was able to make pieces, you know, on my own that would not just, you know, glued on and stuck on, but real pieces of jewelry. And from then on, I moved on to having my first client, as I said earlier, being Yves Saint Laurent.
But that was still not semi-precious jewelry,
was
it?
No, that was custom jewelry.
Costume.
And then from then, I moved on to Greece, actually.
Oh, that's right, you designed
Alexander Iolas, you know, asked me
yes.
to design for this Greek house called Zolotas. And I did that, and I went to Greece and worked there.
Did you live there?
No, I would just spend 1 or 2 months, you know, in the summer.
But they were only basically gold, wasn't it?
Absolutely, right. And they were very good at copying all the antique pieces. It was quite wonderful. It was a whole family that worked on the jewelry. And during the day, you know, some of them would go to the beach, some other would come. They were all cousins and aunts and uncle. And the people kept changing, but the work kept being done.
Did you speak the language?
So by then, you know, well, things in Greek are sometimes very often, macro is obviously big, micro is small. So some things, you know, get to be quite obvious because, of course, all our language comes from Greek. And then, you know, essentially what you do is you work with your hands. So that's a language that everybody understands.
Oh, that was great. How did you get finally elaborating on the jewelry design to Tiffany?
Well, I had, in between, that's when I did the costumes.
Let's go the costumes.
Right, okay, with jumping steps.
I'll let you go through this.
Okay. So in the meantime, I'd met Raphael and Javier, who are here with me today, and they were working on plays, and they had left the group they were working with and started doing their own play that they were going to direct themselves. So since we were spending so much time together, you know, it became inevitable that I would do the costumes and sets for it.
And eventually you married Raphael.
Right.
and became on staff, or he became
right, so that's the first
staff.
time we worked together. Now, you know, he is the spirit behind all of my career.
I see. Does he have time to write anymore?
No, I think, you know, he's writing my career. That's that's worse than a play.
Poor thing. So you got married, which was about 15 years ago.
That's in 78, yeah.
Was it? That was a long
we'd been
time
together,
ago.
Exactly, and we'd been together already for quite a few years, so that adds up. 5 actually, so that's.
It was a long time. And then from the costumes?
And then from the costumes, I went back to doing jewelry, and so that was quite exciting, you know, doing jewelry with stones for the first time.
That's what happened then? Is that when you went to Tiffany, or did you start before that?
No. I knew they were looking for someone at Tiffany, so I prepared a few designs and met with them, and they decided I was the one.
Well, your verve for color, of course, brought so much color and so many colored stones to their collection.
Right.
I don't think they were used to using that
No,
kind
in
of...
America it seemed to be that people were using essentially diamonds. and diamonds and gold. Actually, also very few, very little gold just on its own, which I also like a lot. But for sure, to be able to play with colors and mixing colors that are not supposed to go together,
right, that's
is the biggest fun.
Do they just let you have free reign?
Yes, absolutely. And they actually kind of took me to the vault and said, what stones you like, and they brought it up to the boardroom, and I had the boardroom table of Tiffany's with all the old presidents looking at me with a very stern eye
and all your
on
stones.
pictures and all the stones, and say, well, now what do you want? So I went, well, this and this and this.
What did your eye go to immediately?
Well,
just the colors, or just
the colors? And then there were two stones that I kept, grabbing, and one was a strong pink, which was a rubellite, and the other one was a blue stone. And so I finally put them together in a ring, and they were different shapes, and those two bright colors, and so that's how I lost my virginity with stones.
And along the way, you used stones, you used gold. Then you started making a line that was a little bit less expensive,
Right.
so that everyone could
Sure,
enjoy it.
and there I started using what was all around me in New York, which were all the graffitis that were all over the city, and trying to find a way to upgrade them to something everybody will want instead of scream about.
And they were made in silver, I think. Was
and
it
first
silver?
in gold and then also in silver. And of course, the big boom happened when it was more available to more people, and that's when I thought that the X would actually be a nice touch, because the X is both a romantic message and also looks very modern and definitive.
Well, tell us about the X. I don't think, here's a
There it
belt
is.
with the X, but I don't think our viewers know what you really mean when you talk about the X.
Well, actually, I mean, it's more understandable here than it is in France, because in France you don't use X as you do in England, which is where I first discovered what they meant, as little kisses.
Little kisses, yes.
And so I thought that, it's such a nice symbol for something that's romantic, but it's not cutesy. So that's what I like about it. And it's become so much part of my signature that I have this new line now of accessories that bear the X.
As I was going to say, does Paloma say X? When you think of Paloma Picasso, do you think of X?
No, it's like an extra something.
Signature?
So an extra something, so it's an extra kiss.
But Paloma means
Dove.
Dove, and I
Right.
would think, have you used doves in your
A
designs?
little bit, but not so much. I think, I don't like to be that literal, and that's what I like about the X, that it's not, you can read it as an X or you can read it as a kiss. It has more than one appeal to it.
Well, then we got to Tiffany. Then what was the next thing on the list?
So
Perfume?
You're right, thank God you're here. So then at that point, Raphael started to notice that I was not very good with business at all, and decided that he was kind of fed up with theater, and that he would join forces with me to really create, a Paloma Picasso business. And so he had the idea for the fragrance. And my grandfather was a perfume manufacturer.
Yes, I know you.
it.
So you came out with a nose from somewhere in your family, right?
No. The nose had nothing to do with me personally, but I discovered that I could use mine, which I didn't know I could do. I thought, well, I'll be good at designing the bottle and the packaging, and Raphael can work on advertising and all the concept of what it's going to be. But I didn't know if any of us, could really use our nose. And,
so just because he manufactured it didn't mean that he could make
he
it.
could, but my grandfather was dead, a long time ago. He died in the late 50s, so he was actually a chemist, so he could make formulas for perfume. But it was too complicated to go and dig the old formulas. Some of the things are not available anymore, for example.
We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about your eyeglasses.
Okay, I will too.
Made by Optil. Do you have yours on too?
Yeah.
Great. We'll be right back with Paloma Picasso. We're back with Paloma Picasso. She, of course, is wearing her latest design. I'm wearing something that Optil, the licensee, just made. How do you like them?
They look very good. I like the way it complements the violet.
This is your color.
Yeah, I like
think,
both colors.
Yes. How much do you travel?
That's my main problem. I guess Raphael and I spend minimum 6 months out of the year in hotels. So we pack and unpack all the time.
You just drew something,
well,
but is this what
just
happens?
a little kiss.
Hold it up to it, yeah.
Voila.
And when you're on the plane, do you do this all the time?
No, actually I sleep like a baby, thanks God.
Oh, you do?
Yes, that's my saving grace. I just fall asleep the minute I get onto the plane, and just that sound makes me sleepy.
When do you get to do all your designs? Yeah, that's great.
I put it here. Yeah.
When do you actually then design if you're half of the time on the road?
Any time of the day, really. You know, you get to be quite jet lagged. I think my normal state is actually jet lag, and then sometimes I'm not.
You don't know where you are.
And so I could be designing at any hour. Obviously, when I go, you know, and work in a factory, well, that I know that I have to concentrate on that, so for sure I do it. Otherwise, it could be any time.
When you're out to dinner, I know you do a line of crystal in China. When you're out to dinner, do you think about what you're going to do for your next?
Yeah, I think about it, but I don't draw it in front of everybody. I think it's a bit too sharp.
Some of the accessories that are being shown at Neiman Marcus right now are here, and let's move those paints.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to.
I'll hold these because I think this is a wonderful bag. It looks like a book.
Absolutely. And they have an alphabet on it, and this alphabet was drawn by Leonardo da Vinci.
Is this the right side? Yes. Here,
so
I'll
this
hold
is
it like
A, B,
this.
C, D. And actually the fun thing is that you don't get every letter that we use nowadays, because certain letters...
we can't pick up the color.
You can't pick up the letters. It's too bad.
It's too bad because it's so beautiful.
You know, I'll have a way almost, because I have my bag. No, I left it next door.
But it has the alphabet along the lines.
Right.
And it was from
Leonardo da Vinci. And I thought, well, you know, he's done a good job. Why don't I use his?
And we have another one, suede. I think the colors you said on suede
are very important. Yes, they do glow in a different way than they do on leather. So when I do special colors, I think it's more exciting to do them in leather or in fabric sometime too.
Oh, you use fabric as well?
Oh yes, well for evening, not so much for day.
Here's the two color
So this is, actually it's a 3-color combination because you have black, red and violet. And they are kind of stitched together by this black thread. And so I'm very happy with this bag. I love it. I think it has, you know, it's so simple and classical, and yet it's got something really special.
And you still have your little crosses, your little kisses.
So again, so if you want to see them at Kisses, you certainly can. And then exciting gloves for evening. Again, there the color, you know, you see it's on the satin, the color comes out in a way that's very, very special.
What do you think about mixing all these colors?
Well, that's what I like to do.
I like to
exactly.
wear them all?
I think it's possible to do the impossible, and that's what's fun. You know, when you're kind of you know, almost when danger is around, it's when it's exciting, and that's why I really believe in rather simple clothes, and then, you know, making the excitement happen with the accessories.
You have homes in so many places.
Actually, not so many. No, essentially in New York and Paris. Most of the time it's spent in hotels, but for sure, I feel like I belong to many cities.
What is your favorite city? Where do you like living the best?
I'm not quite sure. I think, you know, every city has something to offer. And that's why I guess I'm such a traveler. I find that if I stay in a place too long, I get, you know, bored. Or I'd start seeing the bad sides of the city. For sure, I also find that I do travel more than I should, because it gets to be a habit that kind of, you know, destroys you. I mean, it's just
New York has been published in magazines, the photographs of your apartment in New York, and France. Are they both in different styles? And
oh
how
yes,
did you decide?
I think that in an apartment already, you should have more than one style. Otherwise, the apartment gets boring. Of course, if you're lucky enough to have a big, you need a big apartment for that, obviously. But it's I think it's fun to have different things happening. I mean, the same way when I design a collection, I can design, for a lady who's more kind of strict in her ways, or I can design for a lady who's more extravagant and extrovert. And it's to be able to come out with all those different sides of your personality that make it exciting.
So your lifestyle at home reflects that, the way you...
I guess, but I mean, I'm always the same person in all those different, surroundings.
You were on the best dressed list for so many years. It must have started when you were in your early 20s.
Yes, I guess. Mm-hmm.
And how did that happen? How did you choose certain designers? What did you like about certain designers?
Well, it was the designer, or it was actually even the flea market at in the beginning.
They put you on the best dressed from the flea market?
Yes.
You don't have to wear couture?
No, just once in a while. But I think it's the way you put it together. It's not so much what you wear, but the way you put it together, and does it go with who you are? And I think then you come out having a strong image.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was really from the Paris designers that really led
or it
the
just
way.
mean that I faked it so good that they thought that I was dressed in couture all day long.
And then what happened was that you were elevated to the Hall of Fame. What does that mean?
So it's, well, at least you don't have to be on, nobody has to vote for you anymore.
I was going to say, do you worry about how you look now, be thinking I'm a Hall of Fame dresser?
No, not really. But the thing is, I like to dress up. I think it's fun. It makes, life, I mean, you wake up in the morning, so often you don't want to wake up in the morning that early. So at least, if you try to look good in front of your own mirror, half of the trouble, is over.
What time do you wake up? What time do you start your day?
There's no, routine at all, because since I, travel to so many countries, as I said, I'm always jet lagged, so I could be getting up very early one morning. The next day, you'll call me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm still sleeping.
Oh.
And you could call me maybe at 3 in the afternoon and I'm sleeping, but I've just started sleeping, who knows?
Do you have to pay attention to diet?
I try to, so I sometimes do and I sometimes don't. Like many of us, I guess, but you have to...
Do you think it helps what you eat and the amount of water you drink when you're traveling?
And also the drinking. If you drink a lot of alcohol, it's harder to come back to earth.
What about keeping in shape? Do you have to?
Well, I do when I do it when I think about it.
What do you do?
I do go to a spa once in a while. Usually that's how I kind of fall back on track if I'm out of track. And I do that about twice a year, and depends. If I have time, I'll stay a week. If I don't have time, I'll stay 3 days.
But you don't have a routine where you take something with you to the hotel room and say, I'm going to run 20 steps today.
I may think about it, but nothing more.
Is there anything left to design for you?
Oh,
Shoes?
There are new things. No, there are sheets coming out soon.
Oh, sheets.
So I'm designing sheets for Martex.
What will those look like?
Well, one is more or less like our bed, and then the other two are quite different.
Colorful?
Some are very kind of dark colors with gold on it, and then the other one is red and black and white, which I've been known for, and which is the way our bed look. And then the other one is more subdued, let's say.
When will those,
but still strong colors.
Are those coming out soon? Those will be out soon?
Yes, they will be presented to the press in about 2 weeks.
Oh, great. Shoes.
Shoes. No, I have a friend who does wonderful shoes, Manolo. So why don't I need to?
Lingerie.
That's a maybe.
That's a maybe? What about food?
Food, I'm the worst. I can't cook food at all. So that wouldn't be very real. When I put my name on it, it's really because I've taken care of it. So food would be really not the thing.
What about chucking everything and retiring and going away with Raphael somewhere?
Yes, we talk about it, and he seems to be talking about it even more than I do, because I get more of the fun than he does, because designing and creating things is quite exciting. So he creates things, but on a broader sense and at a longer lens. He foresees the future before it's there. but it's less rewarding than making a little drawing and then seeing something that's right there and that you can actually use yourself.
The ads, very quickly, because we're right at
That's
the
part
end
of
our
Raphael's
time.
job, so there he has
The
fun.
ads, well, it's part of his job. We must love his wife a lot because he uses you in all the ads.
Well, you know, when you have a name that's as famous as Picasso, to make a mark and you know, define yourself, you know, next to that name, Raphael felt that my face was very important because already it would set the fact that, you know, it was not Pablo Picasso. So
Oh,
that's
I
why he
see.
put the emphasis on me.
Oh, I
and
see.
he's done that, you know, in all the different things. And I think it was very wise because it's apparently worked.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And very quickly, before we go off the air, tell us what you like about Los Angeles.
Oh, well, first I like the sun, of course, and I like the people. You know, the sun makes the people more open, and I think that's what's wonderful about here.
Thank you. You're very open, and we're so happy you were with us today. Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you. It's nice to see you.
Goodbye. We'll see you next time on Joan Quinn, etc.